Welcome to another edition of the Purple Knights podcast. Um, Today I'm here with comic and musician Phil Johnson. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm always down to talk to another Johnson, and I'm always down to talk about some Prince. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, uh, I should mention right off the top that we got connected through a great service, podcastguest.com.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
want to give them a shout out. Uh, Thank you for getting us together, and I also booked another guest in the future through them. So they're a valuable website, podcastguest.com. And so yeah, I just wanted to. I know you're a stand-up comic, and I checked out a few clips on Facebook Live the other day when we confirmed our interview. So uh,
Nice.
very very great stuff, and I know you're a musician as well, so you incorporate music in your act as well, and your songs are very funny as well.
Thanks.
And the band is called Roadside Attraction, right?
Yep, that's it. Yeah. So these days I perform under Phil Johnson and Roadside Attraction because
Okay,
I perform both with the band sometimes, mostly solo these days. So I got to keep all the names in play. It's a little bit of
okay,
juggling there, but yeah, comedy and music, and yeah. So you were watching. I do a live stream every Tuesday at 12:30 where I hang out for an hour and play some stupid songs and do some jibber jabber and make people happy.
okay. Yeah, great. And you're based in California. Are you close to the Bay Area, or where
I
exactly are
am
you at?
I am dead center in the Bay Area, man. Well, I wouldn't say dead center, but I'm in San Jose, so I'm in the depths of Silicon Valley, where Google and eBay and Apple are my neighbors.
Okay, yeah, that sounds cool.
It's
Um,
all right. Yeah, it's
yeah,
expensive. Very,
yeah.
very expensive.
Um, so first of all, why don't you tell us about your stand-up comedy career and how that all started out, and then we'll work Prince into things a little later.
For sure, for sure. So the I started out as a musician. I have a degree in jazz from San Jose State. I played classical music since I was 8. Started with the flute, picked up the piano, picked up guitar when I was about 16. Started a band when I was gosh, I don't know, 19 or 20, something like that. That turned into Roadside Attraction eventually, and the so I'd been doing music, and then in I don't know, 2003 or 2004, something like that. I had written a couple of funny songs that I thought were just kind of like there'll be B-sides, something like that, and I played them for some other musicians at a music conference in Las Vegas that my mentor was putting on that year. And we were just hanging out around the hotel pool playing songs for each other. And I played a song called Whale Blubber, which is a love song. And the next morning, everybody was like, "Oh, that Whale Blubber song. We can't get that stupid Whale Blubber song out of our head. That's what you should be doing. You should be doing the funny stuff." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. That's B-side material. You know, I'm a serious artist." And they were like, "No, seriously, that's what you should be doing." And so I had a couple of funny songs. I got invited to play at a comedy music specific show in San Francisco at a place called the Hyena Theater that doesn't exist anymore. And the MC that night was a lady named Lynn Ruth Miller, who at the time, I want to say was 72, 73 years old and just starting her own comedy career. And she said, "I need a guitarist for my act. We're going to do a thing where you play Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols, and I throw lingerie at the audience." And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And it was hilarious. It was great. And so she started taking me around to some of the local comedy gigs, and then would go, "Hey, he's got some material. Why don't you put him up for a few minutes?" And then they would start putting me up. And then the whole thing just snowballed. Eventually, I decided if I was going to do this, I should learn how to do stand up as well. And so I started diving into the world of comedy and stand up, and that's been 16 years now, and it opened up a whole wide world of new opportunities for me. That's been really, really, really fantastic all the way through. But yeah, that's where the comedy it was an accident.
Wow, it's funny. It's funny how serendipitous things like that work
Yeah, yeah,
all the time for a lot of different people. So
yep.
yeah, and I didn't realize you were a multi-instrumentalist, so that kind of ties into the Prince connection as well.
Very
Um,
much so. That's a
very,
big part
very
of it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. So behind me, you can see I got drums and a bass and keys, and my guitars are around me here. And I started off playing the flute when I was 8, and because my mom said, "Do you want to take music lessons?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe." And she said, "Girls like musicians," and I was like, "Sign me up, good, okay." And she said, "What instrument do you want to play?" And I was like, "I don't know." You know, they were offering, like, it was the elementary school. They were offering woodwinds and some violin or whatever. I said, I don't know." And she said, "Well, look, if you play the flute, you'll always be the only boy in the section." And I was like, "Cool, that sounds like a deal." So I started playing the flute, and I was always the only guy flute player all the way through college in the orchestra. I never dated another flautist, which was funny, but I did meet my best friend Dave in the clarinet section next door. So I got that out of it. But yeah, so I flute when I was 8, picked up piano when I was 12, I think, picked up guitar when I was 16. And once you do that, then it's easier to pick up other stuff. I've got a mandolin sitting up there. I've got a banjo on the wall. I've got some bass, you know, and so it's easy to start picking up other instruments because it becomes just a thing of learning the technique, less so than learning the musicality of it because you've already got that, you know.
Right. Right. So, one question that occurred to me to ask you right now is, um, are you sort of like Prince in the sense that music is going on in your head all the time, or is it just
Yes.
can you turn it on and turn it off like a switch, or what is it
uh,
like for you?
Yeah, it's no. There's always music going on in my head. I was sitting on the couch with my girlfriend the other night. We were just watching TV, and I was just like tapping. You know, I'm always tapping, creating little beats in my head and things like that. And she was just like,
Yeah.
"Stop it, please, please, just stop it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry." Yeah, there's always music going on in my head. When I'm watching a movie or watching TV, I'm listening to the soundtrack to hear what is going on there. When you have sort of dedicated your life to music, like I have, or like Prince had, it's constantly there to the point where sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes I'm just trying to go to sleep, and I'm like, "Why is George Michael's Faith stuck in my head right now? I don't need that right now, you know." And I only bring that up because I did a joke about it the other night in my show. But since I did that joke, that song has been stuck in my head for the last 3 days, you know. And I'm like, I'm trying to work on my own stuff, but so it is constantly there. My girlfriend was a musician as well, and she retired and she quit doing it. And I said, "What's it like being a civilian again?" And she was like, "Well, I'm not always listening to things looking for ideas anymore. I can just listen to music." And I was like, "Oh wow, that must be amazing."
Right. Right. Because I'm sure you know this, but Prince said numerous times in various interviews, he said that the way his mind worked was both a blessing and a curse because
Sure.
it's a blessing because you obviously have that creative flow and you can tap into it anytime, but then again it's like a curse to where you're like you said, you're always thinking and always alert to soundtracks and beats and all that stuff, and it
Right.
it sort of takes over you to the point where you can't sleep
Yeah.
and you can't quiet your mind like you should be able to. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
and certainly
definitely.
Prince, well known for not sleeping a lot. You know,
Yes, exactly.
I really try to get enough sleep. But I was thinking about him the other day. I was listening to some stuff, and I was like, because his band members and his musicians, they would always talk about, "Oh, Prince called me at 4 o'clock in the morning to tell me to come down to Paisley and start recording," and I was like, I want to know what the process looked like at 3 o'clock, that hour before he called them.
Yep.
That's where I'd like to be a fly on the wall to see what he was doing then, because I know what my early, parts of sitting down to work on a song are, and I imagine they're completely different. I'm not nearly as prolific as Prince. I don't think anybody is is as prolific as Prince was. I
Right.
mean, just there's
Right.
so much stuff. But I always wanted to know. I'm like, yeah, okay, he called them at 4 o'clock in the morning to come in and record a drum groove. I want to know what was going on in that hour before, what that studio looked like in that hour before, as he was just sitting there, just pounding out lyrics or grooves or whatever it was, because I find that fascinating. For me, I have to be very directed in my creative work. I get up at the same time every morning. I get into my creative work about 8 o'clock, and I finish the creative work at 12 or 12:30, and then I have to do business stuff in the afternoon because you don't get to just be creative all the time, which would be nice, but there's business stuff that has to be attended to in this industry as well. And so I have to split it up. So I have to do my creative time in those hours each day, so that I can just stay focused on it and not have to worry about all the other things that are, going on and all that kind of stuff. So I was admired that he was able to have that much creative time and have people around him that allowed him to be that creative and that prolific on a regular basis. It just amazes me.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about creative time because as you were talking about that, it kind of went off like a light bulb in my head. I don't know if you're familiar with. There's an author, and he's an official archivist for the Prince Estate right now, but he's also an author, ex-documentarian, and actually an ex-stand-up comedian as well. His name is Dwayne Tudall, and he's a good friend of mine.
Oh,
I ha-
nice. I know the name. I've heard him on interviews and such. Yeah.
I've had him on my podcast twice now, and
Nice.
he's come out with two books on Prince's studio sessions, and it's basically a day by day breakdown of his time in the
Nice.
studio and recording, and supplemented with interviews from band members and various collaborators and engineers. So if you haven't checked those out, there's two books. There's the Purple Rain era studio sessions, 83 and 84.
Hmm.
And then the one that just recently came out was the Parade and Son of the Times era studio sessions,
Okay.
85 and 86.
That sounds like super good, like way super nerdy geek stuff. I'm down. Yeah, like
Yeah,
super music
yeah,
nerd stuff. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you if you're a kind of a music nerd like I am, because
Oh God, yeah.
those those are basically, and people have said it in kind of a jokey way, but it's really more serious than a joke. But people have said that those are basically like the Prince Bibles of in terms of books, in terms of documenting his studio work. Really, really fascinating stuff, especially the last one because he was so prolific in 85 and 86. It's a 700-page book
Uh-huh.
of
Wow.
stuff that he did
Oh
just
my
in those
gosh.
2 years.
That's
So it's
insane.
just insane. So
Yeah.
if you're into that stuff, I would definitely suggest you check out those books
Oh, I
by
definitely will.
uh, by
It's
Dwayne.
I will. I would definitely look at it though. It's funny because I mean, just to as a collective of people to remember all the details of that kind of stuff. Some of that, a lot of that stuff floats away. But even as somebody who does that on a much smaller level myself, and it's like so much of the process is boring, just boring. Where because we always hear for social media, oh, we're post videos of yourself working in the studio. It's like who would want to? That's me hunched over a laptop, going just doing this and cutting and pasting and tweaking
Right,
tracks and pushing the
right,
thing. And it's like who would want to see that? But then when we're on the other side of that, I'm like, absolutely, I want to see that.
right. Exactly, exactly. So it's very fascinating stuff, and it it's such a big, huge contribution to his legacy because,
Hmm.
like you say, it's the stuff that we don't see, that
Yeah,
we're not privy to. An artist in his creative environment. So
yeah, yeah,
it's very, very cool stuff. But
yeah.
yeah,
I will definitely look for those. That sounds great.
um, as far as Prince, I mean, can you tell me a little bit about your history as a fan? I mean, how you discovered him, what your favorite
Sure.
eras are and albums and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I came at it. It's sort of a weird way. I think I mean, he sort of hit mainstream consciousness with Purple Rain. There was a little bit before that, that it was popping, but when Purple Rain came out, it was '84, I think, right? And
Yep,
I was 11 at the time. I was a little bit young for it, and I didn't get it. My brother was 3 years younger than me, still is, but was then, and we didn't get it. It wasn't our thing. We were listening to. it was a little weird because I think the first single, or at least the first single we heard, was When Doves Cry, and I was like, what is this? What is going on? This is bizarre. Because I'd been listening to whatever was on the radio. It was Madonna and REO Speedwagon and things like that. And I had very pedestrian taste in music at 11 years old, as every 11-year-old does. And so I didn't get Prince at all. I didn't understand it. We made jokes about how bad we thought it was. We were not into it at all. And then I missed everything after that until Sign of the Times in '87. Was there anything? There was something in between, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was Parade.
Parade, yes. Okay, so I missed Parade, although I was vaguely aware of it because my cousins were listening to it. But I was kind of out of the loop until Sign of the Times came out. And for some reason, I got that album as a Christmas gift that year. And I don't know why, because I don't remember having asked for it or anything. I might have heard the title track on the radio or something like that, but I don't remember asking for it. But I received it as a Christmas gift, and I put it on, and those 3 years, my brain had expanded a bit, and I was blown away, just absolutely dumbfounded at the stuff on this album. It's got a very different sound than Purple Rain does, or Parade for that matter. It's got a much darker, sort of earthier, organic tone to the mixes and the arrangements of it. And
Yep.
for some reason, that just plowed right straight through my brain, and I was like, "Why? What? How? What?" And so I really that's my starter album. And in fact, people now who I talk to, if they go, I never really had time to get into his stuff. I go, okay, start with Sign of the Times. Don't start with the Sign of the Times box set because you don't have an entire work day to to learn
Right.
about Prince right now. Start with the regular album, the regular double album. But that was really it for me. That was the start, and then I kind of fell out of it again after that because I wasn't really good. I was also at that point getting into my metal years as a teenager, so I was deep into Metallica and Slayer and Exodus and Testament and a lot of the hair metal bands and Poison and Motley Crue and that kind of thing. I have this for a reason, it comes from then. And so I had kind of gotten away from anything that wasn't that for a while. And then
Right.
at one point, must have been 93, early 90s somewhere, my girlfriend and I, we used to go to Walgreens. We were broke young 20-somethings, and so we would go to Walgreens on a Saturday night, and we'd surf the cutout bin of cassettes. And, because they had the cutout bin of cassettes and CDs at the Walgreens. And
Yep.
that's what we would do on a Saturday night. We just find all these albums that we didn't know were out there, bands we didn't know exist. And we're like, oh, look, there's a band called the Sleazebees. Let's go check these guys out. And I found, I think it was a CD copy of Chaos and Disorder. And which I know not one of Prince's favorite albums of his own,
Right.
but I put it on and I was like, oh, listen to this. There's so much guitar on here. And that's what really excited me about that album. I was like, these songs are really, really cool and different, but there's also a whole bunch of guitar stuff on there. And I was, that was my tunnel vision then, was guitar stuff. And so Chaos and Disorder brought me back into the fold. And then from there it was, okay, now I have to go listen to everything because I have these sort of two reference points that are very different from one another. And now I got to go find everything else. So that's when I started diving into all the 90s stuff, the Diamonds and Pearls and the Gold Experience and, all that kind of thing. And so Sign of the Times, Chaos and Disorder, and then the Gold Experience was my third real checkpoint after that I was like, okay, I'm in for the long run on this. I love that album so much.
Nice. Yeah, there's ebbs and flows in any musician's career, naturally, but
Sure.
the heyday, being a hardcore fan, I know all this stuff, but his heyday was basically from 1980, roughly from 1980 to 88 is pretty much
Hmm.
seen as the golden period.
Sure.
And then the second sort of renaissance period for Prince was 93 to 95. So it's interesting, all your stuff that you're talking about falls into those two periods. So
For sure, yeah.
definitely.
And I think it's and a lot of people that I talk to, they have no idea that a lot of that 90s stuff even exists. Like I'll
Right.
I'll go, oh, Gold Experience, and they're like, I don't know what that album is, and that's
Right.
one that I'll turn people on to. I always forget to tell them that Pussy Control's the first track. They always go, well, I was okay, I wasn't expecting that first track, but but yeah, so a lot of people, they don't even know that stuff is there, let alone some of the albums that never came out in the U.S. or things like that. And so I've talked to people who either they knew Purple Rain and that was it, or they just didn't have time to get into it. I have a lot of students who aren't from the U.S. originally. I'm a music teacher as well, and so I will obviously I bring up Prince at some point during those lessons, and they're like, "Oh, I don't really know that much about Prince," and I'm like, "Okay, here's a track list. Go listen to this stuff." And because it's going to be valuable to you, there's very few people I've ever met who just flat out say, I don't like Prince. And the very few that I've met that have said that are people that I don't trust about anything.
Right.
Right?
Right. Exactly.
You are not a trustworthy individual, even if it's not for you at that point in your life. You can't say that it's bad music, And I have run into people where they go, no, it's just bad music. I'm like, no, that's just not possible,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Prince was so eclectic and so diverse that he's literally created music for everyone,
Right.
every genre, every taste.
Yeah.
There's a Prince song out there for everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's actually a meme out there floating around, and I don't know exactly what it says, but it's the gist of it is that if you don't like Prince, I don't trust you, or something like that. So
It's true.
exactly what you're saying. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
meme out there
Yeah,
that's
it's true. Because I mean, even that eclecticism of his work has been a guiding light in my own work. Because coming up early in playing music, the industry always goes, find your sound and stay with it. That's your sound. It's not a well-known story, but Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, everybody knows his Nine Inch Nails work. Nobody realizes that when Nine Inch Nails got signed, he had 8 other bands. They were mostly him, recording projects that were all vastly different. He was in a pop band. He had a rock project. He had all these different sounds that he was working on, and Nine Inch Nails is the one that stuck, and that's why there's Nine Inch Nails. And he never broke out of that. And you hear other bands like Metallica has a really hard time breaking out of their sound. From the very beginning, my songwriting style was I'm going to write a bunch of different stuff, and it may not be for everybody every time, but I'm going to collect all these people who do like that a type of eclectic mix of stuff, because that's what I like in people that I listen to. Is somebody that's not afraid to experiment and do some different stuff and play around a little bit. I just listened to the Foo Fighters disco record yesterday. They did a whole disco album of Bee Gees covers, and I was like, I'm not even that big a Foo Fighters fan, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna find out what they're why'd you do this, and it was entertaining, So I like artists that will play around. They'll go, I'm going to do something completely weird and different, and I've built an audience that expects me to do that. If I did the same thing all the time, they would be disappointed in me. And so now I have that allowance in my career to go, well, this one's a Dixieland jazz song, and they're gonna go, all right, I'll put on a straw boater hat, and we'll do it up, and just play around. But that was because of listening to Prince over the years and going, well, if Prince can do jazz and funk and R&B and soul and rock and whatever else, then I want to be able to do that too, And he developed an audience that expected him to do that, and that was the same road I wanted to go down.
right. Right. Very, very cool. And I wanted to ask you, once this pandemic thing blows over, which we all know it's taking its sweet time right now, but
Mm-hmm.
um, once this pandemic thing blows over, well, first, before I get into that, I want to say most of your stuff has been online lately with the live streams on Tuesdays and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's on your Facebook page, which is I'll have a link to that in the description. I'm putting this on YouTube, and also
Great.
I'll put the audio on blogtalkradio.com and Apple Podcasts and iTunes and stuff like that.
Nice.
So
Yeah, and that Tuesday live stream goes out to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. So I send it out to
okay,
all those places. Yeah, but I've been
okay,
doing. Yeah,
so
there's been lots of Zoom shows and things like that over the last year. I am getting back to live gigs now. I've done, I don't know, 7 or 8 shows over the last couple of weeks, and yeah, so it's exciting to get back finally in front of some live audiences. I've got a brand new show that I wrote over the last year and a half that I'm taking out, and that's not chock full of pandemic material. It's unlike it's going to be interesting to see everybody's comedy specials over the next 6 months. Where everybody's going to have a quarantine chunk in their act, and I tried to avoid all that. So I got a brand new show that I'm taking on the road, full of music and stand up and all sorts of stuff. But yeah.
that's awesome. Do you mainly stay on the West Coast then, or um do you branch out? Because I'm in Minnesota. Prince's homeland. I was born
Hmm.
and largely raised here. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
I work all over the country.
yeah,
Yeah. Right now, I'm mostly in California as things start to open up, and the booking landscape is a disaster right now because everybody's working on getting their makeup dates that were canceled last year. We've got big names that are playing small venues and kind of squeezing everybody else out and things like that. But I'm going to be in Illinois at the end of August for a couple of dates, doing 4 shows out there, and then I'm just slowly getting back out there. But yeah, so
oh
mostly
wow,
West Coast
very
right now.
cool.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do travel all over. I've played Paris, I've played London, I've played yeah, so
Oh
I've
wow,
played
that's
Vancouver. Yeah.
that's wonderful. I was, being from Minnesota and being a little selfish here, I was going to ask about if you had plans, you know, in the future to visit Minneapolis, but
For sure. Yeah, I love Minneapolis. It's a really, really fun town. I do. Do you know where Shakopee is? I usually play
oh yeah,
Shakopee
yep,
once a year. There's a little comedy venue out there. It's in the basement of a restaurant, and they do a weekend show. So yeah, I usually get out there at least once a year to play that area. I really like Minneapolis a lot. The I don't know if it was the I don't think no the last time the last time I was out there was when that polar vortex came through. Haha.
oh
And
nice,
oh my goodness, yeah, I had an Airbnb in Minneapolis that was fortunately very comfortable, nice and warm, and I had planned on going out and doing sets and doing shows every night that I was there, and I was like, I am not leaving. I'm not leaving this Airbnb, and and so I did the shows I had booked, but man, I spent like 4 days just in this Airbnb and didn't leave. Yeah, for a California, I'm pretty good in cold for a California boy, but that was really pushing it for me.
yeah, yeah. I'm half Norwegian and half German, so I have that Viking blood,
You got the cold genes, yeah.
that helps with the cold, definitely. So yeah. Um, and to piggyback off my last question, I was going to ask, have you ever visited any of the Prince spots in Minneapolis, like Paisley
Yeah,
Park, or?
yeah, I have. It was not my last trip out there because it was too cold, but the trip before that I made out there. I did go. I went to Paisley and I took their tour, and this was maybe it was like 3 or 4 months after he passed. It was pretty fresh still, maybe 6 months.
Yep.
And they had just put his ashes in the atrium, like everything. It was really fresh, and I took the tour, and it was like, it was. I didn't cry. I was very proud of myself that I didn't cry, but it was a close call. The tour itself, I I didn't think the tour itself was that great. It felt like, especially at that time, it's hardcore fans that are going there.
Right,
Right in
right.
that first 6 months right there. It's hardcore
Yep,
fans, and the
yep.
tour, at least the information on the tour, I felt was very surface and very scripted. And it's the people that are running Graceland. It's the same people running Paisley Park now. And our tour guide seemed nice enough, but it seemed like we could have probably given more information about the place than she did, and we'd never been there before.
Right.
Although somebody asked her, what her favorite Prince song was, and she said Morning Papers. And I was like, okay, that's a deep enough cut where she is obviously a Prince fan. And so she's probably having to just stick to this script that she's been given more so than, dive deep. But it was exciting to be there. I had never been I had been there once before, but only because I drove into the parking lot and took pictures of the place and freaked out like a fangirl. And then went and drove off because it was still active then. That had been 2 or 3 years before that. And I remember calling my girlfriend going, I'm in the Paisley Park parking lot. I'm in the Paisley Park. And she's like, send me a picture. And I sent her a picture. She goes, it's just a white building. I'm like, yes, it's Paisley Park, And
Yeah.
I just pulled it, I didn't go inside or anything. And I had never been to any of the NPG Music Club events. I had never been, because I'm not there,
Right.
And
Right.
so I had missed all that stuff. So it was very exciting to go to Paisley. It's just not the circumstances I wanted to go to Paisley under,
Right.
So it was good. And then, so after the tour, I was like, I don't want to just go back to my hotel room and work, I want to. And so I looked online for a list of Prince landmarks around Minneapolis, and took myself on a Prince tour of Minneapolis. And so I went to Electric Fetus Records, and I went to the Purple Rain House, and I went to, every landmark I could find that was within a short driving distance. I went, that's what I spent my day doing. And then I went and did my show in Shakopee that night.
Yeah. Isn't it awesome to see those places? I mean, it's very surreal and
Yeah.
very different, but it's like you feel the energy. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
that type of person to where I'm kind of a metaphysical, kind of halfway hippie type guy, but um, I'm very big into energy and all that. And,
Uh-huh.
those places, you feel the energy and you feel the essence of his presence there when you're there. At least for me, I don't know. I can't speak for others, but it's
For
just
me,
so
it was just being connected to the creative process of what he was
right.
doing. So
Exactly.
you, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's really great, and I want to let you know because it sounds like you didn't know, but a few years ago, I don't know exactly how long ago it was, but Graceland actually turned control over to the
Oh,
Prince Estate. So
okay.
they're they're doing a lot better with the tours and the
Oh, good.
information and all that stuff, and they update exhibits and stuff constantly.
Okay.
So the next time you're out this way, I would
Yes.
definitely suggest going on the tour again
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear
because
that. Yeah.
it's vastly improved in my opinion. So
Oh,
I would
good. Good.
definitely suggest you give it another shot because yeah, I was there like maybe a month after it reopened as a museum,
Uh-huh.
and I totally get what you're saying about the tour guides being totally disconnected to the information and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and it was very very disappointing, but it's gotten better by leaps and bounds. So
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
I
it
would
deserves to
definitely
be better. Yeah.
suggest, yeah, I would definitely suggest that you revisit it when
I
you're out
shall.
in this area. So
Yeah. I was going to anyway, but now I have a good reason to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, and I definitely want to come see your show because you're a hilarious guy.
Oh,
There's a
thank you.
there's a clip on Facebook Live that I saw when I first brought it up, and I couldn't find the 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 clip again, and it really upset me because I wanted to show my sister. I'm staying with my sister right now. We're
Uh-huh.
um my I have cerebral palsy and I'm in a wheelchair, and my mom is my caregiver, and we're between houses right now, so we're
Mm.
we're staying with my sister right now. So I wanted to show my sister this skit that you did about the name John, and you were
Oh, yeah.
saying you were saying that throughout history there have been many Johns. There's been uh, John the Baptist, John the toilet,
Yeah.
John the prostitution customer, John the dead body.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I cracked up at that, so I thought it was hilarious, and I searched and searched for the clip again, but couldn't find it because I was
Oh,
gonna.
I will send it to you. I will send it to you. That's actually from my latest comedy special called Burning Sensation that I just put out at the beginning of
Yes,
November.
yes,
Yeah.
but great stuff, and I sat there and I watched like at least 15 clips, and they're really short clips, but I mean
Yeah.
it was great stuff. So I'm definitely gonna get that comedy special. You can, it's available as a download and a physical DVD, right?
Yeah, download, stream, DVD, Blu-ray. I got it all. Yeah, it's all on PhilJohnsonComedy.com. I'm working on further distribution for it now, but for right now, it's just available on my website. But yeah, you can stream it and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah. And you mentioned in our initial email contact, you mentioned that you recently recorded a Prince cover, and I was looking on your website for the Prince cover, and I couldn't find it. Could you
Oh
direct
yeah,
us direct us to
sure.
where that is?
Yeah, so I did a cover of "I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man," and the reason I don't have it on my website is because I have so many singles and things that I put out. I put out new music every 6 weeks, and I've been doing that for quite a while. And so there's lots and lots of music, and it's all available on Apple Music, Spotify, all the streaming places. If you just look by my name up on there, and so, but I sort of filter them in and out from the store itself on my website. But yeah,
Okay,
it was
yeah.
yeah. So I actually it was I recorded that cover in 2004, I want to say. And I was sitting in my old rehearsal studio downtown that I used to have, and just playing with my multi-track recorder and doing stuff. And I was like, I love that song, and it goes right back to Sign of the Times, which is sort of my Genesis album in this whole thing. And I love that song, but I always wanted to hear like a down-tempo version that reflected the very sad lyrics of that song. And
Right.
I never heard Prince do a down-tempo version of it. And I thought, well, let me give it a whack. And it comes out sounding obviously way whiter than the original, and it's a much more sort of an Americana version of it. It's all acoustic instruments and piano and acoustic guitars and things like that. And then so I recorded that, and I had put it out on an EP way back when, and I had put it out online for a while, but I hadn't done the licensing correctly. And so I pulled it down from the streaming services because I'd screwed up the licensing because it was a pain back then. Now it's much easier to do that. So I got the licensing correct and I re-released it just a couple months ago. But yeah, it's a fun version. It's now 15 years old or whatever it is, but it's a fun version. I listen to it and kind of cringe at my vocals a little bit, but I think overall it's a pretty fun version of it, or a pretty sad version of it actually, because that was my point with it. And I don't put out I don't do covers a lot, and I don't do serious songs a lot, so that was sort of a double whammy of doing something different for me.
Very cool. And I'll include the link to that as well, to the Spotify link. I'll include the link
Great.
on the YouTube description box, and when I post the iTunes and Blog Talk Radio link, I'll include it in that as well.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you know this, but around 2012, 2013, Prince put together it was him and a trio of women, and they formed a rock group called Third Eye Girl,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he actually did rework "I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man"
Oh really?
into a slow jam.
Oh, how did I never hear that?
So yeah, if you've never heard that, we gotta correct that situation ASAP.
Was it on one of the official albums, or was it somewhere else?
It was basically through the Third Eye Girl YouTube channel, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I can hook you up with that. So if you're
Okay,
interested
all
in
right.
that,
Yeah, I need to
definitely
hear it.
it's a very more, like you say, down tempo, very much
Uh-huh.
rock
Okay.
based interpretation of the song, and it's
Nice. And that
just
sounds like it'll be way different from what I did with it too. Yeah.
it's absolutely awesome. So yeah, you definitely need to hear that.
Great.
Um,
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Because I always liked that he would play with his songs like that and change, do different versions of them, do a piano version of it, whatever, and even reference, he would self-reference one song and another song. It's that kind of world building that Marvel Comics does now, where if you're, where you're watching one movie going, oh, that's an Easter egg that points back to this other thing. And you can do the same thing with Prince songs where you're like, oh, that Lynn drum sound right there is that's the same pattern he was using on back over on this song over here, and or that phased snare drum hit or whatever it is, and I like that he has that level of world building. I think it's every artist sort of aspires to that, to be able to be that self-referential and have people get it. And
Right.
I've done it a few times, and everybody misses it, So not everybody gets to do that, but yeah, I've always really, really liked that he was able to play with his own catalog in different ways like that. I've always thought that was cool.
Right. I like how you put that a world building, and it's sort of like we have the MCU, and there's also
Yeah.
you could say the same thing like a purple expanded universe or a Prince expanded universe. So yeah, I like that idea a lot. And yeah, before I let you go, I just wanted to let you know that um, I'm sure you know that a new album is dropping on the 30th,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah. I was just listening to Hot Summer this morning. Yep.
Okay, yep. And the official podcast, the first episode, they're doing 4 episodes of the official podcast on the new album, and the first episode dropped today. So
Oh, nifty.
I wanted to let you and everybody else know that the first episode dropped today, and it's very, very cool. You've got the radio personality, the local Minnesota radio personality, Andrea Swenson, who did such a good job on all the other official podcasts for the 1999 and Sign of the Times box sets. She's doing this one as well. And the first episode is co hosted by Shelby Johnson, who's also a good acquaintance of mine and was a backup singer for Prince from 2006 to 2015, and features heavily on the new album. So she's co hosting the podcast. So that's up and available on Spotify through the official Prince account there. So
That'll be
I
great.
just wanted to let everybody know about that before we let you go. But
I'm so behind on all of my podcast listening because I listen to podcasts when I drive,
yeah,
when I'm driving on tour,
yep,
and I haven't been doing that for a year and a half, and I've completely fallen off every bit of my podcast listening.
yeah. But it's out now, and it's great. It's just great to hear collaborators and people that worked on the album share their memories. And the thing that stuck out mostly to me is the Prince was the type of personality that really believed in the people that he worked with and trusted their musical instincts. So he would literally get people in the studio and he'd be like, okay, we're going to play this chord, this chord, this chord. And I'll point to you when for the chord changes. And he's like, okay, roll tape. We're recording. So that's basically what it's like. And hearing stories like that, it's just so fascinating to me how focused and how driven and how trusting he was of the talent around him to carry out his vision for his art. And
Yeah,
just fascinating stuff, but great episode. So that's out today. So,
super.
but thank you very much, Phil, for joining
Thank
me.
you, Chris.
And we'll definitely keep in touch outside of the podcast. And uh, I've I've definitely got all the access to all the bootlegs and all the stuff because I'm a hardcore fan, and I'm kind of a young pup when it comes to old school Prince fans because I'm 41. So I was born in 1980. But it's funny that you mentioned earlier when we first started that you were an 11-year-old in '84,
Yeah.
and didn't quite get Prince because you were too young to get it. I actually got into Prince when I was 3 years old in
Oh my gosh.
'83, and I've been listening to him ever since. So it's funny. It's funny how
That is
things like that
elevated
work.
taste for a 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's funny how different things are for different people. But
Sure.
um, I obviously respect your journey with Prince, and I respect your talent and your dedication to your two crafts of music and comedy. You're a very, very talented guy, and I've
Thank you.
nothing but respect for you. So yeah, we definitely gotta keep this connection going, and
For
we'll
sure.
connect outside the podcast and just talk and bullshit about music and life and stuff like that. So
Yep.
um,
Absolutely, man.
yeah, and like I say, it's always good to meet another Johnson, and in some respect, I consider us all family. Because Shelby J, the backup singer for Prince that I
Uh huh.
referenced earlier, her name is Shelby Johnson, so she's a Johnson too, and
Got
she
another one.
told me that Prince knew when he was still with us, he knew who I was,
Oh, really?
and Shelby uh, told me that the couple times that my name came up in conversation, she would say to Prince, "Oh yeah, he's a Johnson, so obviously he's family." So, and
That's great.
that's the way it should be. That's the attitude you should have. But
For sure. Yes.
yeah, but thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us and your passion for music and comedy and your history as a Prince fan. Thank you very much. It was very, very enlightening and very uplifting, which is what I try and do with this podcast.
Of course.
I try to do my own small part to sort of, connect us all within the fan community and let us know that we're all not as different as we think we are. We're all connected. We're all part of a very important community and a soul family. So,
For sure. For
um,
sure. It's an honor to be on, Chris. I appreciate it.
well, thank you so much. And like I say, I'll have all those links for people on YouTube and also Blog Talk Radio. And until next time, um, for myself and Phil, I'd just like to say thank you all for watching and listening. And until next time, this is Chris Johnson. I'm out.